I'm Jacy from Craft Life, and I'm here today to teach you how to knit a stocking. And the supplies you will need to make this are yarn, of course, and today I'm using white and red, and their sizes are super bulky 6. You will also need a rainbow loom or a knitting loom, and today I'm going to show you how to do it on your rainbow loom. So if you have a knitting loom, you can also use that and just do the same exact steps that I'm going to show you how to do. You will also need a rainbow loom hook, a crochet hook, or a knitting hook. You will need scissors, and last but not least, you will need a ruler. So please get your supplies and we'll begin. To begin, we need to set up our rainbow loom. So we're going to start by taking out our middle row. Then we're going to take this row and we're going to turn it around so that all of its arrows point towards the left. Now I'm going to flip it over and remove the big blue base piece on the back. Now our loom is set up, and we're going to begin by making the top of our stocking, so this white part right here. And we're going to begin with a slip knot. So to do a slip knot, you're just going to hold some yarn. It doesn't have to be a long piece. And all you're going to do is wrap it around your finger once. Then you're going to pinch it so that you have created a loop here. And now we're going to take this yarn right here, the rest of our yarn, and we're going to put it inside of that loop to form a slip knot. And we're going to put it on our very first peg here and pull that tight. You want to leave this loop a little bit loose, and now you can pull out some yarn from your ball of yarn. And the yarn that we are going to be using off of our ball of yarn is not going to be cut until we switch colors or we end it. And in this case, I'm going to be switching colors. So I'm going to cut it when I'm switching my color. Now we're going to begin E-wrapping, and you want to make them extremely loose. So just do it nice and loose, and you're going to go all the way around your loom doing this. Now, once we are finished with this row, I just want to say that the looser you make these loops, the easier it's going to be for you when we finish off our top part of our stocking. And now that we've finished going all the way around doing our loose loops, we're going to start and go around again, but this time they don't have to be loose and they don't have to be tight either. Now, once you are finished with this, just make sure that you didn't wrap them around your pegs too tight or too loose. Now we can begin bringing our bottom row over the top, and you just want to hold your yarn with your hand. And now I'm going to bring my bottom loop over the top on all of my pegs. Now on this last peg here, I have my slip knot strand sticking out, so I'm just going to push it inside. So now it is out of the way, and I'm going to begin making my second row. But before I do that, I'm going to make sure they are all pushed down. And I want to show you that this is going to be your start peg for the rest of your rows, and this is going to be your stop peg. So we're going to start on our start peg and go around wrapping our yarn, and do not wrap them too tight. Now we have a bottom row and a top row, and I'm just going to bring my bottom loops over the top on all my pegs. And after you pass this peg, you can let go of your yarn and just go around doing this. Now we have just finished our second row and we're going to push this all down. And you want to have 14 rows in total, so please do what we've been doing. So we're going to start on our start peg, E-wrap not too tight all the way around until we get to our stop peg. Then we're going to bring our bottom loops over the top on all of our pegs, and then you're just going to continue this for 12 more rows so that we have 14 rows in total. And if you want your top part of your stocking to be larger than this, you can always continue and do more rows. But if you want to make it the same as mine, you'll need to do 12 more rows so that you have 14 rows in total, and I'll be right back. I just finished my 12 more rows, so now I have 14 rows in total. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these bottom loops, or my first row, back up to the top, and I'm going to place them back onto the pegs that they were on originally. So I'm going to move my yarn just in between these two pegs. Then what I like to do is I like to push from this side, fold it over, and then it will start to come up from the bottom. And you're just going to pull this whole bottom section. So now we can just fold it over a little to bring these rows out of the way. And now, since I started on this peg, I'm going to take that slip knot loop here, so this one, and I'm going to place it back onto the peg it was on originally. And now from there, you can pretty much see the rest of the loops that go where. So I'm just going to use my hook to help me, but this one is going to go to this peg. And again, we are using the first row. And you're just going to go around and place the loops back on. And if they start to come off because of your loose loops, you can just push it down from the center and just continue this. Now you can just pull it down from the outside, and it has a folded over look now. And now we're going to start on our stop peg here, and we're going to bring our bottom loops over the top on all of our pegs and just go around. Make sure you're grabbing the bottom one and not the top one. Now you just want to push them down, and yes, it was kind of hard to bring my bottom loops over the top, but you just want to be careful when you're doing it. And now I'm just going to begin making my rows again. But this time when I'm making them, I have to switch color because I want my stocking part to be different from the top part. So what you're going to do is I'm just going to cut mine here about 6 inches long. And I'm going to take my new color, which is this one, and I'm just going to tie them into a knot very close to where I'm going to begin wrapping again. So I'm going to make it right about there and then tie it. I'm going to tie mine 3 times. Once you have pulled them extremely tight, now you're just going to cut it close and cut it close. And once you are finished doing that, we can just pull out some more yarn from our new ball of yarn. And this yarn is not going to be cut off the ball of yarn until we are finished. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the same procedure that I've been doing. I'm going to E-wrap around, not too tight, and just go around until we get to our stop peg. Now I'm just going to hold it with my fingers and make sure you did not wrap it too tight. And now we're going to bring our bottom loops over the top on all of our pegs. And on this row, I made you make it loose so that you can bring them over without a problem. Now you just want to push them down, and we just did one row together for our big stocking part right here. And you want to have 25 rows in total, so please do 24 more rows of what we've been doing. And remember, this is your start peg. You're going to E-wrap all the way around, not too tight, until you get to your stop peg. Then you're going to bring your bottom loops over the top on all of your pegs and continue this for 24 more rows so that you have 25 in total, and I'll be right back. I just finished my 24 more rows, so now I have 25 rows in total for this part of my stocking, and you can make yours longer or shorter depending on how you want it. And now we're going to begin making this section right here, or the heel. And at first, it may seem a little bit hard, but once you start doing it, you'll get the hang of it. So what you want to do is flip your loom over. And for the heel, this is the row we are only going to be using here. This one right here. And what you want to start by doing is we're going to knit backwards all the way until we get to this peg, but you're not going to knit on this peg. So I'm just going to go backwards like this. Bring my bottom loop over the top, and you have to do them one by one for this part. And now I'm just going to E-wrap backwards. I just want to show you that you're not going to be stopping on this peg, but you're going to stop on this one, or the end one. So I'm going to E-wrap one more time backwards. Bring my bottom loop over the top. And now this peg is the only peg that hasn't been knit. And now what you want to do is we're going to turn around on this peg. So you're not going to knit it, but you're going to take your yarn, wrap around it, and don't even touch this peg until we're ready to increase. Right now we are decreasing. And we're going to wrap all the way backwards again until we get back to this peg on the other side. And we're doing it one by one so that the heel is more tight and you don't get any of your loops mixed up. So just continue E-wrapping until your very first peg on the other side. Now I'm just going to clear this up to you. We have this one on this side, and it has 2 loops on it. The rest of the pegs have been knit a second time until we've gotten down to this one. So now we're going to turn around on this peg, and we're going to E-wrap all the way down until we get to the peg right before the one we just marked. So we're going to E-wrap again and leave this peg alone. Now you just want to make sure all of these pegs are pushed down except for the ones with 2 loops on them, so this one and this one. And now we just stopped on the peg before the peg that was just marked. So here I'm going to turn around on this peg, and I'm going to go down again until I reach the peg before the peg that had been marked. And you're just going to continue going down and back doing this. So just E-wrap until you get back down to the peg before the marked one. Now I'm gonna stop right before the peg that has been marked here. So on this peg, and I'm going to take my yarn and I'm gonna turn around on this peg, and I'm gonna continue back and forth. And every time you're gonna stop on the peg before the one that's been marked, and you're gonna wrap it around just like this, like I've been doing. Then you're gonna E-wrap down to your next one, and so on until you have 5 middle pegs in the center. So I'm just gonna continue mine, and please do yours. Now I have 5 pegs in the center that only have 1 loop on them. And then on either side I have 4 pegs that have 2 loops on them. So that means I went back 4 times, back and forth on each side. And now I'm ready to start increasing. And so when you are increasing, this is what you do. Since we stopped on this peg to wrap it, I'm just going to continue down this side. So leave it wrapped, and then I'm going to continue all the way until I get to this peg. So just E-wrap. Now I've just stopped on the peg right before the first peg wrapped on this side. So now with this peg, on my first wrapped one, I'm just going to wrap this yarn around it. I'm going to bring over the bottom 2 loops, bring them over, and push it down. Now I'm going to go back down to this side, bring over these 2, but before I do that, I need to wrap again on this peg to go back. So I'm going to wrap again, but this time I'm going to hook it over. And now you're just going to continue E-wrapping until you get back to this peg. Now that we've gotten back to our first peg on this side that has been wrapped, all we're going to do is wrap it around that peg. Then we're going to take our hook and bring the bottom 2 loops over the top, and then push it down. So now we've increased on this side, and we're going to go back and increase on this side, and then back and back and back. But each time you do, you need to wrap again on that same peg, bring it over, and then you can E-wrap all the way down until you get to this one. Now we've gotten back to our next wrapped peg on this side, and we're just going to increase. So we're going to take our yarn, wrap it around, then bring our bottom 2 loops over the top and push it down. And we're going to go back and increase on our next peg. But before we do that, we need to wrap again on that same peg. Now we can E-wrap all the way down until we get to this peg. Now I've gotten back to this side, and I'm going to increase on my next peg. So I'm going to do what I've been doing. I'm going to wrap it around, bring the bottom 2 loops over the top, push it down, and wrap it again. And push it down. I've just done 4 rows with you for our increasing, and all you want to do is continue to go down, bring your bottom 2 over, wrap again, go back down, do the same thing, and you're just going to increase and go back and forth. So I'm going to do mine, so please do yours. I'm going to finish mine off on this side since this is the last one that I have to do. So I'm just going to increase again and then wrap it around my peg. And now, congratulations, we have just finished creating the heel, and now we're going to move on to making this part of our stocking. So now we can just continue doing normal rows again. We're going to start on our start peg and end on our stop peg, and just go around and wrap them not too tight or too loose. So I'm going to begin on this peg and go around. Now on our last peg on this side, we're just going to bring over our bottom loop over the top, and now you can let go of your yarn once you have completed that one. And now you're just going to continue doing this all the way around. Now you can just push all of your loops down. And we just did 1 row for this part of our stocking, and you want to have 18 rows in total. So please do 17 more rows of what we've been doing. So you're going to start on your start peg, go around and E-wrap not too tight until you get to your stop peg. Then you're going to bring your bottom loops over the top on all of your pegs and push it down. So please do this for 17 more rows so that you have 18 rows in total, and I'll be right back. I just finished my 17 more rows for this part of my stocking. So now I have 18 rows in total, and now we're going to begin making the toe. And it is the same exact process as the heel. So I'm going to show you 2 rows of the decreasing and 2 rows of the increasing. And if you need any help, please go back to where I showed you how to do the heel. It is the exact same process. So we're just going to begin by knitting backwards all the way until we get back to our first peg, and we're going to stop on that peg. And make sure you do it one at a time. Now I'm going to wrap around my first peg on this side, and then I'm going to E-wrap all the way down but leave this peg alone. Now I'm going to stop before I get to this peg here, or my first peg here on this side, and I'm going to wrap, And then I'm going to go back down and until I get to this peg. I'm going to go back down until I get to this one, and so on and so on. And what you need to do is you need to do this until you have 5 pegs left in the center. And if you need any help whatsoever, please go back to the heel. I showed you exactly what you're going to do. It's the same exact process. So please keep going back and forth until you have 5 pegs in the center, and I'll be right back. I just finished decreasing my toe, and if you will see, there are 4 pegs with 2 loops on them, which means I went back and forth 4 times on this side. And also there are 4 on this side, but I need to wrap around my last one and just hold it. So now I have 4 with 2 on them. And then in the center I have 5 pegs with just 1 loop on them. And now I'm going to begin increasing. And so I'm just going to leave this peg alone. And I'm going to E-wrap all the way until I get to my first peg that needs to be increased. So I'm going to leave this one alone and E-wrap until I get to that peg. Now this is my first peg that needs to be E-wrapped around and increased. So my first one, so I'm going to take my yarn, wrap it around. I'm going to bring my bottom 2 loops over the top. And I've just increased on 1 peg, but now to go back down and increase on this side, what you need to do is wrap around this peg again and bring your bottom loop over the top. And then we're going to E-wrap all the way down to this peg. Now I'm back to the first peg on this side that needs to be increased on, or the first peg on this side that has 2 loops. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my yarn, wrap it around, and then bring my bottom 2 loops over the top and push it down. Now when I increase towards this side again, I need to wrap it around, bring the bottom loop over the top, and now I can E-wrap back down. So you're just going to continue to go down, bring your bottom 2 over the top, go back down, bring the bottom 2 over the top. But each time you bring your bottom 2 over the top, remember to wrap around again so that you can head back the other way. So if you have any trouble with this part, please go back to the heel and I show you exactly how to do it. It's the same exact thing. But you're going to do this until all of your pegs have 1 loop on them, like these right here. So you're just going to go back and forth, and I'll be right back. I have increased on all of my pegs except for my last one here, which I wanted to do with you so we can end this all together. And now what you want to do is just wrap it around like we've been doing. You're going to bring your bottom 2 loops over the top and wrap it 1 more time and bring your bottom loop over the top. Now we are finished, and all we need to do is sew this up. And this part is the toe, and we're going to bring the toe back to the rest of the stocking. So what we need to do is cut a piece of yarn that we're going to use. So I'm just going to take my yarn, wrap it around my loom once, and then halfway. So I have 1.5 times. Then I'm just going to pinch it, take my scissors, and cut it. Now this is the piece of yarn I'm going to use to sew it up. And when we are sewing this up, we're going to start on this peg. We're going to stick our hook in, pull our yarn up, and then pop it off. Now I'm going to sew across from it, so I'm going to stick my hook in and pull my yarn up, and then pop it off. So literally we're just going to go back and forth. So now I'm going to go back to my first one, stick my hook in, pull my yarn up, pop it off. Then I'm going to stick my hook in from the one across from it and pull it up and pop it off. So you're just going to continue to sew back and forth all the way down, and I'm going to do mine, so just continue doing this. Now we're going to pull this out of our rainbow loom. And now you can just pull on this strand of yarn, not too tight, but tight enough so that it all comes together like this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this loop right here that it's connected to, that this strand is, and I'm just going to pull my strand of yarn through it, but not all the way. So now I have a loop, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to put my yarn through that loop to create a knot, and I'm just going to pull that tight. And then create one more knot on top of that. Now I'm going to cut it so I can pull it through. So I'm just going to cut it short. I'm going to take my hook, I'm going to put my finger on top of it, and I'm going to lead it all the way up to the spot right next to this strand of yarn here, and I'm going to pull that strand of yarn down into my stocking. So now it's gone. I'm going to pull one more time. And it's out of the way. And I'm just going to fold mine in half like this. With this strand of yarn here, we're just going to tie it and tuck it. So I'm going to find a loop, pull it through, but not all the way. Then I'm just going to place my yarn through my loop, pull that tight, and create another loop on top of that. Now I'm just going to cut it short. And that is out of the way. Now if you want to be able to hang your stocking, I'm going to show you how. This is what it looks like, and you can hang it on anything you want. And so to make this, I'm going to use white yarn. You can use whatever color you want. You're going to start by taking your yarn, and you're just going to measure out about 6 to 12 inches. I'm just going to choose that much, and then I'm just going to take it, wrap it around my finger once, then flip it. So now I have created a loop. I'm going to take my yarn and place it in the loop to create a slip knot. Now with the rest of my yarn, there are two ways of doing this. You can put it back on your finger like this, wrap around another time, bring it over, and pull it tight. But the way I like to do it is I like to stick my fingers through the loop and pull the yarn back. But I like to do it from the front. So all I do is I pull it and then pull my yarn so it gets a smaller loop. Then I'm going to pull it again, and then it's getting too long, so I'm going to pull the strand. And you're just going to continue doing this for as long as you want yours to be. So if you make it 6 inches, this loop is going to be 3 inches long. So that's what I'm going to do. So if you want to make it the same as mine, please make yours until it is 6 inches so that the loop will be 3 inches long, and I'll be right back. I've just finished making mine to 6 inches long, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out another 6 to 12 inches. Then I'm going to cut it. Mine is 8 inches. Then I'm going to take this yarn and I'm going to place it back through the loop. and pull it all the way through so it creates a knot. And now with this strand, we're going to fold it over. And if you don't like this size, you can always make another one, but this is what it's going to look like. And I think this one is perfect for this stocking. So what you want to do is from the inside of your stocking, on the back part where the heel is, I'm just going to fold it over. Then in the center, so I'm going to take these two here. I'm just going to place my hook through two of these loops. Then I'm going to take my thick strand that I just made, and I'm going to pull it through those two loops. Pull it all the way through. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the other side and I'm going to tie it to this side in a knot. And I'm going to tie it 3 times. I just tied mine 3 times where the two ends meet. And now with this, I'm just going to tuck it in, even with the long strand. So I'm just going to take my hook, I'm going to thread it through half, and then I'm going to pull them down. I like to do it one at a time so it's not that hard. Now you're just going to find a loop, and I'm going to pull them through one at a time. But I'm not going to pull them through all the way. So I did my first one, and I just did my second one. So now I have a loop formed with my yarn, and I'm going to take the rest of my yarn and I'm going to place it back through my loop to create a knot. And pull your knot tight so you don't see it. And now we can just tuck them in to our yarn. Now I'm just going to cut it. And now it's out of the way, and I have something that I can use to hang my stocking. And now we are finished making our stocking. This is what they look like when they're done, and this is the same way you can make a sock, just use less pegs and less rows, and you will have a sock made. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you make some, I'd love to see them. My Instagram is CraftLifeUSA, so please tag me in a photo. And don't forget to like us on Facebook, put it on Pinterest, and subscribe right here on YouTube. I hope you're living a craft life just like me. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!